Well, hello, cutie pie. How old are you?
Oh, sorry, Dhammarato. I didn't realize my thing was on. She's 2.
I can tell. She's about my age. All right. Well, guys, welcome to the Sunday afternoon call. It's Charlie, you're new on the call. The calls are various. We do various things, but mostly the calls are for helping us to find friends in the Dhamma. Just that camera if you can. Didn't help. So, as we were talking earlier before we joined the group, well, hello, Ben. As we were talking before we started the call, this group has been very active today based upon a video that was published from Guru Viking. Ivan, will you start off and tell us what's going on?
Well, I could be biased. I only skimmed through like 20, 30 minutes of it. But basically, well, I guess it's just two people redefining a lot of the Buddhist teaching. Well, I won't say a lot, but I have to recall. Like Scott, do jump in if I if I over explaining it. But it's just yeah,
I
it's
watched
just
the video.
Yeah, it's just Scott, go ahead.
It seems like people are talking about certain doubts that they're having that are arising because of the video, and how there's kind of this separation from Theravada orthodoxy. So there's like very orthodox Theravada views on what it means to be an arhat, what it means to be this and that, and then there's very rigid qualifications for that are explained in the suttas. And then these people are okay.
Go ahead and give us some details, Scott, about what the actual video was, so that the people watching this video will not be left.
It was a Guru Viking video between Delson Armstrong and Daniel Ingram. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And both of them have in the past made claims. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Tell us about that.
So apparently, well, Daniel claims to be an arhat, and Delson did before, but now he renounced his claim. But I'm not really an expert on those people. I watched the video, but I didn't really have a problem with the video, but people were talking about it. And the point I was making about the suttas is that you don't need to be, or the thing I was thinking about is like, you don't need to be an expert on every single sutta and have every single piece of knowledge to like understand the Dhamma. And it's more instead of worrying about other people's attainments, like practice the Dhamma in your own experience, because it doesn't matter if someone's enlightened or not. If you're not enlightened, what good is it going to do you? But that's just my opinion.
All right. Well, basically, what I hear you saying is placing the arahat as a word into the class of attainment and perhaps in the class of permanency.
Right.
All right. As opposed to something that, let us say that while you are free from the defilements, then being free from the defilements would classify you as an arahat right then and there. but especially if you can maintain that. But that the West, especially the Western Buddhists, they have the kind of the idea that things are permanent. An example of that is now that Donald Trump has been elected president, people are looking at it as permanent. Oh, we'll never have elections again. Oh, there's a coup, and all of that kind of stuff, rather than recognizing, oh no, in 19 months there's going to be another election. Okay, so this is one of the qualities that we can look at as temporary versus permanent. And as far as I know, it's a full teaching of the Buddha, anicca vata sankhara. Everything is changing. If you can remember to see those changes and remember to see what's happening right now with right noble viewing, remembering to view things correctly rather than in an absolute framework of it's always this or it's always that, but being able to see that changing system, now you have a new choice about it. But if things are permanent, you don't have any choice. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's what they're pretty much were saying. Like, whereas the idea is that the orthodoxy has these permanent ideas, but they're saying, well, it's like you know, it's not as permanent as they thought. Or I guess that's the debate that's going on. But that's
Okay.
what all the talk is about in the chat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, Ivan, let's get your take on this.
Well, the problem is, from my point of view, it's just people taking the experience and like really seeing that as like that is the truth. I guess that I don't know. I kind of question that because it seems like they are trying to arrive at some intellectual understanding rather than it doesn't feel like wisdom to me.
If we take what the sutta says, doesn't it kind of describes it as a permanent in destruction of craving, cut off at the roots like a palm stump, and not subject to further not subject to further arising. So it kind of describes it that way, right? As permanent.
Okay, let us put it this way. People who smoke cigarettes, while they're smoking, they want to justify the smoking. And then they want to quit. And it takes a while to quit in the sense of permanency. But every time they take a cigarette out and don't light it or put it out immediately, that means that right then and there, they have become a non-smoker again. And eventually, the craving for the cigarettes wanes. And that, in my own experience, in fact, to continue with that, I have picked up tobacco and then set it down several times in my lifetime. The last time that I picked it up when I was in Saudi Arabia as an expat employee, and everybody smoked, and so I picked it up too. Then the last time that I went to, the very first time that I went to a Goenka retreat, on the way to the retreat, I had a cigarette that I would consider my last. Since that time, though, I have in fact smoked. The one time that I remember most specifically was that I was sitting at a table, a meeting with a bunch of people, and they were passing cigarettes around. This was years after. I picked one up, and I lit it up, and I took a puff of it, and I said, I don't like this. Okay? Now, let me ask you it this way. Am I a smoker or am I not a smoker? Or does the issue matter as to whether I'm a smoker or not? All right, so if we can think of it like that with the smoking and see all of our defilements fit into that category, that eventually, when you see yourself doing it, while you're doing it, you see yourself and you say, I don't like this. And you stop it immediately. And then eventually, the desire wanes away because you're not giving it any energy anymore. All right. This was what would be meaning then in the sense of cutting it off at the root. One of the examples that I use also is imagine that you've got a garden or a lawn and it's got weeds in it, say dandelions. Now out on the lawn, you can pull up a dandelion, but let us say that now you've got a dandelion that's growing in the cracks of the sidewalk, and you can't pull up that dandelion. You can't grab it by the roots and pull it out, and you're certainly not going to, let us say, make some concrete repairs to the sidewalk. But what you can do is to cut that limb, cut it off, and keep cutting it off every time that it grows a leaf or so. And eventually, because the root system is getting no sunlight at all, because you see it and you keep cutting it off, then that root then will wither and perhaps die. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So then we can say then that the Arahat is the one who has come to the point of not needing to whack that limb off anymore, because whatever root system is left doesn't produce a leaf. Now, it's quite possible for someone to go for a while and say, aha, I haven't had any leaves growing. And so they start telling the world, oh, I've been able to conquer what, dandelions. And then a year or so later, guess what? That dandelion grows again. What are they going to say? Some of them are going to admit that, oh, let me whack that dandelion again. Some are going to hide the dandelion. Some are going to take it and put it as a shrine and have a new religion around it. And some are just going to deny it and say, oh no, I've already whacked all of those dandelions. That one is not real. And then what we find is that people are talking about it on this video like that. One taking one position and somebody else taking another position. Oh, we have a new Arahat in our room.
I think I was Arhat once for like 30 seconds or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, one of the things that I wanted to discuss today was the issue of confidence. Now, confidence is not confidence in the sense of I have whacked off all of the dandelions and none of them will ever grow. Rather, confidence is any dandelions that grow, I can handle it. And for this reason and many others, the Buddha highly recommends that people do not make claims Not those kind of claims that I've whacked all the dandelions and there no more of them exist here. That in fact, in the tradition, the Theravada traditional system, in the Padimok, there are 4 parajikas. Now, the parajikas are those which the word actually means defeat, to be defeated in the teaching of the Dhamma. The 4 parajikas are having sexual intercourse, killing a human being. Does anybody know the rest of them?
Splitting up the Sangha is one of them, right?
Breaking up this. Well, actually, the breaking of the Sangha is called the Sangha Dasasa. So that's not one of the parajikas. But the one that I'm thinking about is false spiritual claims. Claiming that you have something when in fact you don't. Claiming, for instance, jhanas. Claiming spiritual attainments like arahat or saintlyhood or any of that kind of stuff. And this is so important, in fact, that at the ordination ceremonies for new monks, they actually go through the parajikas, but those are the only ones. Those are the only rules that they go through on the ordination. Why? Because we want to make sure that the young monk understands. When I say young monk, I'm talking about newly a monk rather than an old man. In fact, it's only in Thailand where old men will ordain. But generally, we want to make sure that they understand that these 4, the one that I didn't say was theft, stealing. That in fact, in the suttas, it talks about it in the sense of taking more than 7 rice grain value of gold. Now, I would assume that a rice grain sized piece of gold would be well less than or something, not a gram, nowhere near a gram, but maybe a grain, because you've got a grain of rice. So I would put that, depending upon nowadays, what the value of gold is, would be something in the value of about $200 to $500. So really tiny little thefts are not that. But if you've taken something of value, but the one that we're talking about today is making false claims. And that what we've come to from those who've seen the video, is that both of these guys are trying to redefine what is an arahat so that they fit into it now that they've made the claim. Is that not correct? Ivan, what do you think on that?
Yeah, totally agree. That's how I see it. I actually rewatched some of the segment of video a couple of times just to convince myself. Maybe I'm listening wrongly, but every time I listen, it's like some mental gymnastic going on. I don't know. That's my perception. It's like they're trying to. It's confusing. It's really confusing.
All right. So the first thing then that I want to share with you guys in the form of a teaching is don't ever claim anything, because if you claim something, whatever it is, you're going to have competition. You're going to have people who will attack you. But if you don't ever claim anything, then you're kind of safe. That's especially true in the sense of claiming spiritual attainments, that the best way to do it would be to go to a senior monk, one you trust, perhaps your teacher, and ask him questions and discuss it with him, or maybe a close friend, but always in the sense of asking questions. In fact, that reminds me of a conversation that I had with Mikey just a minute before we turned the video on, because they were talking about arahants are still subject to conceit and still get angry. Now, the question is, what does anger mean? Yelling and stomping and clenching your fist and putting people down and all of that kind of stuff would be considered anger. But also, there's a really mild form of anger in the sense of just one word. But in fact, that's part of the process of dealing with anger. Going back to the issue of smoking cigarettes, that if you can taste anger and recognize it immediately as that it tastes bad and that you want to remove it, then you are in that way free from anger like you are free from tobacco. But because one did smoke, one cannot say permanently, I am a non-smoker, because in fact I did smoke. So there's no reason to claim anything like being free from anger. And by the way, being free from anger is I think it's the fifth of the fetters. And all of us here are, let us say, not at the level of working to finish anger, but rather at the level of seeing it as soon as it happens, recognizing that it's a bad taste, and putting it down immediately. That's the way to handle it. And yet in this video, they're discussing that arahats still get angry. Now, the word still get angry means that they're being angry and they're not tasting it and seeing how disgustingly untasteful it is, and stop it right then and there. Which means then that they haven't learned something. And so we'll use this as well as other examples of what is then distasteful. When you see your own greed and you can see it as distasteful, you'll stop it right then and there. This is really the teaching of the arahats. The teaching of the Buddha is to see what you've got. See it not just seeing it in the sense of arahats still get angry, but seeing it in the sense of how distasteful it is, or another word would be dissatisfying. And as soon as we see that it's dissatisfying, we'll stop it as soon as we see it. Scott, do you agree with that?
Yeah, totally agree with that. Anger feels bad, man. It hurts to be angry. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't like being angry.
Okay.
If I might add, sometimes I don't know if this is a helpful thing to add, but with greater awareness, sometimes felt a slight tug of war between wanting to drop the anger because it literally hurts to feel it, and
the pleasure of the power of it.
The power, and I think also like the story coming and going, yeah, but it's justified because blah 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 blah, and then the kind of story coming in to go, yeah, but you should feel like this, you deserve to feel like this. And I might just, I'm actually going to turn it into a minor question, but I don't want to detract too much from what you're saying.
No, go ahead,
really
ask
helpful.
your question.
But how best to deal with that kind of story just kind of like repeatedly kind of trying to barge its way in to say, yeah, but they did this. You know?
Okay. In fact, if you can see then how distasteful the story is about they did me wrong, then you can stop the story right then and there. Or we can say it in the sense of it's an unwholesome story, it's an unwholesome thought. Now, basically, what we're actually talking about here is that you're telling yourself a story and you're not aware that you're telling yourself a story. You think that you're telling the truth. And with that storytelling comes up fear. And with that fear, then, comes, I don't like the fear and I don't like the story. Let me do something about it, and I need power to do something about it, and so therefore the power becomes anger. So look how much we've missed by the time we get angry, and that can happen in, I would say something like a half a second. Like, let us say that you're in a crowded room and somebody brushes, he's trying to get to the water fountain or to the bar or to the toilet or whatever, and he brushes by you in a way that you found offensive. You didn't like it when he brushed by you. He almost knocked you down in brushing by you, so the story goes. And by brushing beside you, you then yell at him, watch where you're going. Now, does that actually entail anger right then and there, or does it have to happen in another way, is that he turns around and says, screw you, and that's when real anger comes. The big stuff. So there's, in fact, many different degrees of anger. There's very little subtle angers, which you could say would be like one word, ouch. Or maybe 2 or 3 words, watch where you're going, watch where you're going. That's 4 already, but you can still stop it then. But we normally don't. We want to continue on with it, especially if we get something back from him. So in that regard, look how many mind moments we have spent already going down the tubes of anger before we wake up to it. Now, one of the points, let's talk about it this way. The Arahat is a process, and the first item on the list is called the Noble, and it's also referred to as the Noble Stream Enterer, and that this Noble Stream Enterer is one who can see because he knows how to look. But that doesn't, so it's an issue of knowledge. He knows how to look. And that the one of the definitions then for the Sotapan is that he's going to take on the life of anger at most 7 times before he catches it. And yet ordinary people, they get into arguments and fist fights and they yell at their wife and they beat the wife and they do all kinds of things over and over and over again in 1 to 5 minutes. And they never did wake up to the anger until it got way too far. So what we can say then is that count on that issue of 7 words. If you say more than 7 words in anger, you can classify that as actual anger. Until you come up with 7 words in a row, we can say that, aha, he's watching what he's saying. He stops it before it gets literally out of hand. And then the next one would be that he would get it down to just 1 word. And he lets out a yell, Let's out an ouch or an oh or a or maybe a fuck or something like that. And that's all that there is. This would then be considered to be the Sotagami. Now, the next level would be the level of the Anagami, which means that he did not like what happened, but he was able to curb his mouth, and that fuck didn't come out, but it stayed in there and maybe turned around and boiled a little bit. And the Arahat is the one who has already uprooted that anger. He's done it. He's removed it so many times that it's gone kind of fallow. So, Karwan, go ahead.
I have a question about anger. Well, anger is something that I experience daily many times. So I'm really into addicted to it almost. But is there also something positive in anger? I mean, if it had nothing positive
when you're
in it,
trying
why
to build a caliphate, when you want to take over the world, it's got some value to it. All right? When you're off on a jihad and wanting to take over a country or something, then anger has the value. Right? But if you're trying to purify your own mind, clean things out, it doesn't have much value there, does it? All right? Now, that anger has value is something that we are trained to do. Anger in and of itself is out of our DNA. It's part of our defense mechanism that we can call the self-preservation instinct. But we began to justify our anger because of the way that we were raised. In other words, justification that anger is powerful as a feeling, but justification that anger has value, that's learned behavior, and you learn that from some ignorant person who tried to justify their own anger. It comes with the culture. So whatever culture you were raised in, if you were raised Christian, they have what they call righteous anger. That in fact the U.S. government is suffering under righteous anger right now, big time. All right, and the Islam also trains all of their boys to justify their anger, as opposed to, let us say, play God. Play Allah, because Allah is known to be merciful. Why can't we bring up our merciful behavior, like in the sense that somebody brushed aside going down the street or in a crowded place or whatever like that, and we felt it. We really got pushed over by it. But the mercy doesn't come up immediately. That's okay. Or maybe there's nothing to it. No, immediately we feel offended because we are, let us say, that touch has fear based in it, and so the fear gives rise to the anger of the powerful. How dare he do that to me? To where, in fact, it could have been completely inadvertent. So it depends upon which culture you're in and how you're trained as to how you're going to respond or react to getting shoved or pushed or brushed up against or whatever like that.
I feel also if right now if I think about giving up anger, I feel afraid just having the thought of saying, okay, what if I don't have anger anymore? I'm then afraid, okay, how will I then behave if some crazy guy does something to me or to one of my friends or some, how will I then react?
Actually, let's put it this way. It depends upon where you are. And from what I understand, you're in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give up your anger here, the fear is going to be irrational because the Thai people they're Buddhist as a country, as a nation, you're safe here. And that should be a part of the reality check is that, oh, now that I'm giving up the anger, here comes the fear, that in fact, if the fear doesn't come up, it was already there. The anger was based upon the fear. And so logically giving up the anger, the fear is going to come. An example of that would be yelling at the daughter, showing angry at the daughter, when in fact, if we shut up and don't respond, now we have the fear of, oh, she's going to grow up to be a bitch or something. Okay, so there comes that fear. Yes, Scott, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I can relate to you, Carwan, because I used to be really angry. I mean, I still get angry, but I used to be angry all the time. And
let us say often.
Yeah, often, not all the time, right? Often. You'll find that you think it's a defense mechanism that's like keeping you safe, but actually that type of frequent anger actually attracts more conflicts into your life because you're looking for conflicts. So you're actually going to put yourself in more danger being angry all the often. You're gonna find trouble.
Bingo. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only
And
that, but anger is physiological, that you're actually doing damage to your body by putting it in that state, which is basically fight or flight. Anger is a state of fight or flight, and you can either run and hide, or you can buck up and get into a fight. The problem is, in our society, neither one are correct. And so there you are, anger, maybe seething, and it's no place for it to go. There's no place for the anger to go. And so you keep it inside, maybe boiling inside, maybe giving yourself eventually a heart attack. Your heart attacks you. Why? Because it's angry. So, Scott, sorry for interrupting. Go right ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then the next point I was getting to is, so what's behind the anger is fear. And fear is like blood in the water for sharks. Like the more afraid you are, like people will automatically see you as a victim. So if you're scared, you like attract also more conflicts. So you're not going to be able to deal with the fear if you don't deal with the anger. So once you deal with the anger, and then once you deal with the fear and you're not afraid anymore, people don't mess with you then. So it's like people don't mess with the person that has zero fear, because like something is like, it seems like it's more trouble than it's worth. Like not being afraid is, yeah.
Unless you write a book, and in that book you say, I'm not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And then
but
people are going to attack you for that.
Yeah. But like, why would someone who's not afraid of anything have to tell everybody that they're not afraid of anything?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not afraid of anything, why are you going around telling people you're not afraid of anything? That's inviting being attacked. Go ahead, Ivan.
Oh yeah, I just want to quickly say, in the video, which I think is interesting. Daniel, he claims to he was like basically expressing his humility, I suppose, like say, or he still get afraid or triggered when people criticize him, attack him. And I think it's interesting because again, it's like if you don't claim this to be, you don't try to redefine it, and you won't have this attack to begin with. And it's also he's sort of like, I don't know, this is just my personal opinion, like where I see it is almost like he tried to frame this as like some heroic journey or something. And I think it's interesting because like, why do you want to invite yourself to all this problem. I guess it's just, yeah, that's all I want to say.
All right. So, one of the things that I would like to continue to talk about is to back up a little bit in the process of dealing with anger and things like this, and go back to the level of, let us say, not the fulfilled Sotapan, but the one who is on the path of Sotapan, the one who is like a budding Sotapan, is the one then who is gaining confidence in himself that he can handle any and everything. Now, one can read suttas, you can memorize all of them, you can even translate all of them into whatever language that you think you know, and that's not going to give you any confidence at all. But the confidence comes from your own practice. And the practice that you have, the first one, in fact, would be the knowledge and vision that no matter how much, let us call it anger or fear or trepidation or anxiety, stress, just unwholesome thoughts, whatever comes up in the form of a hindrance, that you know that you can clear it out. You can come back to reality. Now, this is something that is quite special. I don't even want to use the word special. Let us say that it is something that is not ordinary. Ordinary people do not have that. Ordinary people have the attitude of the victim. They feel victimized by all kinds of things, including their own anger, victimized by their own fear, and victimized by others who make us angry and fearful, etc., like that. But when you can come to understand that all of your problems are between your ears, all of your problems is self-generated, once you see that, that's an important step. But the step beyond that is the knowledge and understanding that you, because you know that it all comes from within you, that you can change it. That understanding that I can, in fact, change it myself is kind of a new kind of confidence. That's what we would mean then by the change of one's attitude from the loser or the victim into a real winner, is when you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can, in fact, clean out your mind right now. You can take a deep breath, you can give yourself a happy thought, and you can clean that out right now. That's the first step on the path. That is actually, in that time that you're doing that, the mind is noble. It's a factor of the path. This is the way that we practice the path. And as I said before, ordinary people can't do that because they don't have the knowledge and vision that they created the situation, that the guy who bumped into us didn't create the situation. I used his bumping into me as an, let us say, an excuse to feel bad, to feel fear, then to feel angry. For in fact, there was nothing to it in the first place except what I made out of it. And when you see that everything that is there like that, you made it up. This is an important point. Now, before that, let us start looking at the hindrances, especially the hindrance of doubt, because this is the coming out of that hindrance of doubt. So the first place that we would go for the hindrance of doubt would be, I'm a victim, I need help, I need a guru, I need somebody who wrote a book saying they were an arahat. I need someone who has a YouTube that claims he's an arahat. I need a doctor. I need a psychologist. I need a preacher. I need a priest. Okay? So that quality of I need help is the first place that we all start. In fact, we start that place in infancy. And for most of us, we stay in that state. We need our mommy to take care of us, and when we grow up, we need a teacher to take care of us, we need a professor to take care of us, we need a preacher to take care of us, or we need a God to take care of us. Oh, sweet Jesus, come take care of me, because I can't do it myself. This is where everybody starts, and most people never get out of that. And so one of the very first preliminary steps on the path then is to come out of that. And in fact, this is what the second noble truth is really all about, is to understand that nobody ever did anything to you. You did it all to yourself. And so that brings up a kind of doubt is, am I capable of getting out of it? That we no longer look for somebody else to get us out of it. Now we have to recognize that I'm in it and I can't get anybody to help me. Now this has a secondary quality to it, which means that you, when you understand that you can't get anybody to help you, then that puts you also in the position that you can't help anybody get out of their stuff either. Even if they want you to get them out of it, you can't get them out of it. They've got to get themselves out of it. You can talk to them to, let us say, quote, quote, help them get out of it, but it's their choice to get out of it. No matter what I say, some people just don't want to get out of it. And so it's not the teacher that can get one out of it. You've got to do that yourself. But it's good to have friends that's going to help you to get out of it by giving you some good words that you can say, oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, yes, this is right. This is correct. This is reality. Okay, so this is where the confidence starts to come in, is when we can see for ourselves how things are. Not in a book, not in a sutta, not in a video, not in a Dhamma talk, but you can see clearly for yourself that you got yourself into this, and it's up to you to get yourself out. And then further practice will come to the point of, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can get myself out of it. And this is that first step of nobility. When you come to the conclusion that you can get yourself out of it because you know that you can get yourself out of it because you've been practicing to get yourself out of it and become successful at getting yourself out of it. And you keep doing that over and over again, and you begin to get that attitude of no matter what happens, I can get myself out of it. This is much more important as the beginning step than saying I can get myself out of anger, because anger is a really heavy-duty thing. Can you get yourself out of what you led up to that anger? Can you get out of the fear that you have? Can you get out of the anger because you can get out of the fear because you can see reality for itself because you know how to look? This is the important point then. This is that first knowledge. The Buddha calls this the very first knowledge, is that no matter how upset I get, no matter how ticked off or how uptight or confused or greedy or lustful, no matter what happens, I can get myself out of it. This is a big deal. This is where you're beginning to, and I talk to you about this so that you can see for yourself. Nobody's going to get you out of it other than you. And by practicing over and over again that you can get yourself out of it, that will gain the confidence that you know that you can get yourself out of it. And that's when your attitude changes from being a victim to the world into being a winner. Why? Because you're taking 100% full responsibility for yourself. Nobody's going to get you out of anything. Nobody's responsible for the way you feel. Nobody's responsible for your unwholesome thoughts and stories. Only you can change that. Can you come to that position of knowing that not only did I do it to myself, but I can undo it. I can stop it. I can bring myself out of it. That's the real confidence. All right, and then another step, a little further along, is when we have the knowledge and vision of what is and what is not the path. Now, before we get there, we need to get some solitude. And when I say solitude, that means that we begin to get away from not other people, but we also begin to get away from our own garbage. Why can we get away from it? It's because we've got that confidence, that knowledge and vision that I can, in fact, clean out my mind. And so now we start cleaning out the mind and cleaning out the mind and cleaning out the mind, and gain that knowledge that I can clean out the mind and get the mind settled. This word settling here means that I've been able to do that for so many times in a row that I can gain peace. So the first is the knowledge that I can do it. And then comes a bit of peace and quiet inside. And now comes the third one, and this is the one that I really want to talk about today, and that is the knowledge and vision of what is and what is not your path in life. And the path that we're talking about here is the Eightfold and Noble Path of the Buddha, because that's what we've been practicing. We have been practicing to remember to look at how we feel, to remember to look at our attitude, to remember to look at the thoughts and the stories that we're telling ourselves and make a change. And gain that attitude of, I can do this. And gain that peace of quiet. And when that happens, that means getting then to the point of really, really seeing for oneself that the path, the Eightfold Noble Path, works. It works every time. Without a shadow of a doubt, you can see it for yourself. And I'm stressing that for a particularly important point. And that knowledge and vision of what is and what is not the path, that what is not the path means making claims, reading suttas, doing all of that kind of stuff, becoming an arahat, becoming a priest, showing off, talking about it, etc., like that. None of that stuff works. What does work is repeating to practice the path. And we know that for sure. No matter how many suttas. It's funny, how many suttas have people read? Western Buddhism is all about, let's read another sutta. Maybe I'll get it out now. Maybe, and we can memorize the suttas. We can memorize the Eightfold Noble Path, but we never have that full confidence, that knowledge and vision that this is the way I'm going to be living my life. Once we gain that, the next point would be that we begin to get very friendly with catching all of the dukkha that we do create. Because up until this point, everyone doesn't like, let us go back to the cigarettes, the cigarette is distasteful. We don't like that cigarette, but we smoke it anyway. So, if we can come to that state of the knowledge and vision of what is the path and what is not the path, that's one of the key points where we really begin to trust ourselves. We make friends with ourselves. We forgive ourselves easily for any wrongdoing that we've done. That whatever you do is okay because you can get yourself right back out of it. This is an important point that leads to the rest of it, because you'll never get fully entrenched in the Dhamma in an eager, enthusiastic way as long as you see that you're a screw-up. So long as you say, like for instance, Goenka has the point that when the mind wanders away from the breath, never mind, start again. That's the quality of the never mind that's so important once we understand through the knowledge and vision of what is and what is not the path, we forgive ourselves immediately, instantly, for every transgression and come right back immediately into being that winner's position. Once we accept ourselves as being a winner, it's okay to screw up. It's not okay to go claiming that you don't screw up. It's not okay to try to change the definitions of words, and say, well, arahats, they get angry. Rather, we can recognize, aha, I see that anger. Yeah, I can change it right now, too. Okay, so it takes a very friendly position. Okay, so when we get that point, when we come to the conclusion that we're okay, we really are okay, screw-ups and all, warts and all, you're all right. Not a problem in the world. And so this is also, by the way, this is called the fourth knowledge. The fourth knowledge is that you're okay. Why? Because you've got the knowledge and vision of what is and is not the path. Because you've got the knowledge and vision of, I could get in peace anytime I want to. Because we have the knowledge and vision of no matter how obstructed the mind gets, I could get out of it. So the whole teaching of the Buddha in this regard has to do with confidence and the knowledge based upon your own investigation versus based upon your own acceptance of yourself directly. You don't have to go to a priest to get forgiven. You don't have to go to Allah and get his mercy. You've got all the mercy you need right here, already built right in. You made it yourself. And so this is where we go with this, is that how do you know? The answer to that is because I have looked and I have seen over and over and over again. That's how I know. My knowledge is not based upon the sutras. My knowledge is based upon year after year after year of correct practice of seeing what's real. If that's what I invite you to do, is to start looking at it and seeing what's real. Knowing that you know what's real. Knowing that you know that you have that confidence. You have that surety. And then nothing can bother you after that. But if it does, you say, aha, I see that anger. And I can come right back out of it. So this is the teaching for today. This is not a discussion about anger. This is a discussion about you have the confidence that you're all right. You have the confidence because you have seen it over and over and over again that you can get yourself out of any mess that you ever got yourself into. You can get yourself right back out of it. That you've got the skills and you've got the procedure. What is the procedure? The Eightfold Noble Path. And what is the skills? That's the practice. Over and over and over again, we keep practicing to be okay. And pretty soon, we begin to know it because of direct experience. So, does anybody have any questions now?
I don't have any questions, but
yes, Tom, go ahead.
I actually don't have a question. I'd just like to take this moment to say I've got to go now. So thanks so much. I really appreciate the teaching. It's good stuff. So yeah, thanks a lot, and have a great rest of the day.
Well, stick around because we're just about finished.
Are we just about finished?
Yeah, we're just
about. If I disappear in about 5 minutes, then
all right.
Apologies. But
that'll do it. Okay, Kawan, what do you think?
Well, I enjoy it, man. I'm learning. My thing is, what I'm thinking about, is it right to make for myself a practice, let's say for upcoming months, I will just not be angry, or
No,
no?
no, because when you do get angry, you'll get disappointed that you broke your vow. Don't make vows. Don't make renunciation. The Buddha considers renunciation or taking vows as ordinary people, and it sets you up for failure. If you want to take a vow like that, the vow is not I will watch, but the vow is I can watch. I can do this. Not I will do it, because I will do it is kind of a vow, but I can do it. That's what we're looking at. Okay. Ben, do you have something to say?
Only thank you, Dhammarato.
Great one. All right. You can do this. Ivan, you got something to say?
Not much. Just beautiful. Nice to be reminded something that I need to hear. Everything just clicks instantly. The practice is solid.
Mm-hmm. Emily, good to see you again. Do you have something to say as we close out?
Nothing from my side. Thank you so much.
All right. Scott, what do you have to say?
This was a great talk. I'm glad I joined this talk because it was great, and yeah, it rings true, and I feel confident in the Dhamma because
Excellent.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
real progress, is to have that kind of confidence in the Dhamma.
Yeah, it feels good. Yeah.
So, Charlie, what do you think about this talk? What you got on your mind?
It's very good. Sorry, I'm in the middle of cooking, so I couldn't turn on the mic.
Never mind. Cook something up, something happy. Oh, Thomas, do you have something to say?
I just joined, so not really. But I will watch the talk once it's recorded, and I hope to join at the correct hour next time.
All right. So, Paul, do you have something? Big crowd today.
No, nothing. Thank you for the talk, Dhammarato.
All right. So, Nike, do you have something to say?
Don't get mad, get glad. And yeah, thank you all for being here today. Nice to see so many smiling, happy friends. Go check out opensangafoundation.org. And if you haven't yet, sign up for a new account, add a profile picture, and go play around with it. There's lots of fun things to play with. And we have, of course, the map of Watts. We've got audio transcriptions we've been doing lately of these talks that you can check out there as well. We've been putting a little bit of work into
videos, we have transcriptions into language, and we have the audio. So up to you, your choice.
Yeah, go have fun with it. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right. Does anybody have any last things to say before we finish?
I think one maybe actually quick thing I might just add is I've noticed in my own practice I used to struggle with doubt, and that manifested a lot in doubt over technique, and I would like try very hard and change techniques when I felt they weren't working. And
don't try, enjoy.
Well, as I've begun in your teaching more to build quite deliberately a sense of confidence that you can do it rather than relying on a technique, it's helped a lot. So I more just want to say thanks for that, and I'm going to keep in that direction.
In a way, today's talk has been kind of an advanced talk, but we'll get back to the real basics. And I'll give you a very shorthand version of the basic. Is number one, you have to remember to look at what you're doing. Remember to look at the thoughts that you have, because the thoughts that you have are going to be, let us say, what works you up. And that the thoughts that you have are based upon what attitude you have. People who have a winner's attitude have a different thought system than those who have a victim's attitude. So we start with looking at the thoughts first and start changing those from a victim's attitude into a positive, wholesome winner's attitude, and pretty soon we begin to pick up that attitude of being a winner. And then we begin to feel really good, really successful. So that's actually the practice. It's not the way that some do it, in the sense of going deep into meditation. We don't go deep into meditation. Whatever's deep is just going to come right up. It's much more of an ambush rather than digging a pit. So you be therefore, you remember, you look. Your job is much more like the job of a sniper than it is a tank. Don't be a tank. Be a sniper. Did you see that unwholesome thought? Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you all today. I will see you again.
Thanks, Dhammarato.
Thanks, Dhammarato.
Thank you.